and this is where I show you all of the music that we've done for Nephilim Resurrection. For the actual EP, we're using a lot of Neural DSP plugins, everything like Gojira, Nolly X, Rebea, and we're using Get Good Drums. We've got the Matt Halpern periphery, and we've got a 5-string bass, and we're using Dark Glass and another one of the bass plugins, which I can't ever remember the name of. I think that these songs are going to be quite hard to play, and I'm a little bit nervous about completely screwing all of them up. So the first song appears on the first level, and the first level is called Tunnels of Mashu. I guess the transition from chapter 1 to chapter 2, the themes of chapter 1 and chapter 2 are slightly different. We're trying to look to kind of bridge that gap, and we do that both in the level design and in the assets that you see, where you'll start in like enclosed, maybe more natural spaces at the beginning of Tunnels of Mashu, and then you'll end up in this more industrial area, this more built up area, and that's kind of the theme of the second chapter is us moving from the kind of understated like caves and the villages of the first chapter to more industrial and huge. So Assad pretty much wrote or composed all of the music from the first chapter. So all of your favorite riffs, which I can't play any of them now, but you know, pretty much all of that was Assad's MIDI creations, which were then turned into metal. By me and Ali and the gang. Whereas the later tracks that you'll hear after this were the first tracks that we wrote on our own entirely. So this is the last one that has the credit of Assad. And when it was first being made, and I remember him kind of going into the writing process for it, the first thing that we decided was that we were going to go to a low B. And I'm going to do it like that because I don't want to lean over to my laptop and and tune like that. So we're in a low B. So usually we're in drop C tuning. So you know, everything's in drop D and then down a whole step or down a whole tone. But with this song, it's drop C tuning, but with a low B instead of a C. So the tuning sounds about like this. And that's specifically because we want to be able to hit that low note sometimes. Well, obviously, if you haven't got the C there and you're not in drop D style tuning anymore, you can't do chords like bar chords anymore. You have to kind of do this slightly different approach to it, where you kind of do like a little triangle position. Let's give it a go. We're going to see how much we remember. We're going to be starting and stopping as I forget things and as we want to try different things out. But I think we're just going to go from the top. That's your first riff. So the first riff is quite simple. It kind of continues here, which is why we're just going to let it go. But that's why we need that low B string, because we're going down to there. But this section is basically a long solo, and I don't really remember what the long solo is. But essentially a big grungy guitar in the background doing essentially the same riff, just not really... Oh, I've lost my headphones! 1 second. We're kind of moving position a little bit, so we're doing the... We're doing that for quite a long time. But when we actually do move, there's like a bit of a build up in energy. There's some like strumming guitars. Some strumming guitars which are kind of like building up energy and building up a lot of hype. And then we move to the kind of second main riff, which is going to sound a little bit like that. And then you have the most Assad sounding next section after that, which is he's very good at doing his like kind of like motif melodies. You kind of hear that at the end of every time we do like the phrase. So that's what you're going to be hearing next. So we'll go for that. What I was saying before about the I hear it in the background. Oh, yeah. So now we need to move on to the next riff. And the next riff, we use a lot of the same kind of idea as the original when you're going like... maybe like moving from that C to B to C to B to C to B, whatever. We're going to do something very, very close to that. Apart from it's just focusing on that kind of bounce between them. That's kind of a lot of the remainder of the song, to be absolutely honest. So we'll go there now. Oh. To that. Load of building up stuff there. Big open chords. Then kind of back. But longer. And then going really big for the ending. One more harmony up the top. And the hilarious thing is that this is probably like the easiest song. This is probably the easiest song by far. The amount of takes we've had to do on this EP has actually been fantastic. So the next track I've done as track number 3. I think that's the right order. So we need to once again tune up. And so we're in a much happier tuning. So this is the one that most recently had the most work done. Well, I guess number one had a little bit of work done recently. But this one had a lot of work done because I wasn't liking the ending very much. It was a little bit complicated. The ending kind of sounded a little bit like beforehand, where it was like... I don't know, and it didn't sound very Nephilim. That was the whole thing. Like, the riff is cool, it's a thing, but it just didn't sound very Nephilim. So we kind of went back and we rewrote it a bunch. We also made a slower intro because the track in game didn't sound like it was meant to be at the beginning of the level. So we kind of changed up the beginning a little bit. So now it kind of starts. And it's kind of about those chords at the beginning. And a lot of the riffs kind of come back to that original idea of playing around like the 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, those kind of ideas. There's a couple of other really cool things in here. One of the things is that I got my friend James Jackson to come home to me, and because he had guitars that could do much lower tunings than I could. Because one of the riffs is, which I think was in low G, and this guitar just will not do low G. It just won't do it. What was that bit of hair doing? It just won't do low G at all. So I did the kind of high version, and he did the low chugs in low G that only his guitar could really do. What else? He did a solo. Don't know how to play that, so I'm just going to be riffing along the background. But there's some stuff in here that I'm really happy with. So I think let's give it a go. That like motif in the background, that's going to come back. Changing it up. No, way ahead. Where exactly where I said before. Really cool bit on the top here. And now the low tuning. But listen to it now. Ooh, damn. Same thing now. Now some like death. Solo. Oh, I don't remember it. It's like... What's that? Something like that, isn't it? There you go. And there's some like breathing in there. It's supposed to make it sound like exhausted. So each of the sections are like built to be kind of different parts of the level. So the last section will almost always be like the boss. Apart from if there's a section like this, which will be like the post-boss. The post-boss bit, which is like giving you a sad little section to reflect on before you start the next wave of bullshit. Next track is for a section of the game called Iana Heights. And this was one where we didn't even have a track at one point, and me and Ali got together. We got together in my back garden in my old house, and we had some drinks. And then Ben and Jay, who are other parts of the development team, other dear friends and parts of the development team, they decided to invite themselves to our party. And then we decided to have way too many drinks, and then we kind of wrote the drum track in the garden, and then we very, very drunkenly tried to lay down some tracks for it. So we knew what the drums were going to sound like before we knew what the guitar was going to sound like, and I was pretty damn not fit for purpose by the time I actually laid down the guitar. So I recorded it really, really badly. But then I kind of went back and learned it, and it turns out it's pretty cool. So some main things to know here. We're kind of sitting again around that kind of open string one area. Apart from this one has a very important... So that is like, it's like a chromatic, right? And we'd use that quite a lot for the entire beginning section of the song. Because the next part of the riff, the complete part of the first riff is... It kind of repeats through that, and then there's a little variant, like the full Pearly King riff. So the full riff, the Pearly King version of the riff, which I'm barely going to be able to play if I play it really slowly. Yeah. Gonna struggle. Never actually played that at full speed. This is why we love recording, kids, because I can't fucking play that. And it gets worse. Arguably, it gets worse. So the next section after the big section, which goes on for ages, as long as you can hear that section, you know we're at the first place. The second bit is where it goes really nasty and really heavy. So we're still sitting around that kind of area, the 0-1 area. Apart from now, we're doing this lovely chord. Really discordant, really metal. So, and that's quite hard to play, but it's also very fun to play, and it's very, again, quite heavy. And that slide is borderline impossible. And then we do some, like, heavy stuff. The last thing to note is that towards the end of the song, I was listening to too much of an EP that had lots of those like bendy riffs, like bendy modern metal riffs. So we tried to do one of those, which sounds a little bit like. Hit and miss. I kind of like it sometimes and I kind of hate it sometimes, but that's the same with pretty much everything you write. But we're going to give it a go. We're going to try and give the whole song a go. Let's do it. I need a break after that first half, man. That is crazy. Even though sometimes I'm kind of doing it. I'm kind of doing it better than I thought I would, to be honest. I thought that would be a complete fucking train wreck. Jumped out of my window. Yeah, he did. He's on the top. Remember? Ali gets some credit for this bit. Was it? I don't think I know that riff. Whatever. And this is basically the same thing, there's just some nice... blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think I got one right. I think I got one right at one point. That's a hard song. That's a hard song. There's a lot I like about it, though. Like, even the... I wish I could be the kind of guitarist who could play that. Okay, down to the last one. So there's one more song in this EP, in this chapter, and that is, in my opinion, definitely one of the best, because it is one that I think it was the first one that was written in the post-Assad composing era. And it was a song that I've kind of had the idea of for a little while, and it's based... This is your song, yeah? This is definitely mine. And it was kind of based on, actually, a James Jackson song. So I was talking earlier about how James Jackson played on the second track. This is kind of based on a song I heard Once Upon a Time by James Jackson, which had this, like, really cool... This really, like, fast picking. Now, I don't actually know what the original song was. Something like that, you know. Some interesting fast picking thing. So basically, I stole it. And I asked him, and he said it was fine. Asked him in the pub, and he said it was fine. So this song has kind of three distinct sections, which is important because it is playing with the final super boss. And the final super boss has kind of multiple different phases, as you would expect from a super boss. And these different sections of the song are kind of playing, you know, while you're either beating phase 1 or phase 2, or fighting the secret part of the boss that I won't spoil. So the riff goes a little bit like this. It goes. So this is built on, I guess, like halfway between me and Assad quite nicely, because I knew that he always ended his like melodic phrases with that little like motif, and mine was going to be the so that what we wrote in. That's just like a D, like a nice D chord, right? I actually don't know why it sounds so metal, considering it's like a D chord. I don't know, it just kind of works. And then obviously this is just like lots of ones and zeros, right? And then it kind of changes in the second time you go. Just like a small alteration. It doesn't sound like too much to begin with, but it's partly because once we do it twice, we then drop everything down an octave, and that's really where the song comes alive. So at the beginning, obviously, this is all very separated. We're using like the full width of the full width of the strings. Anyway, we're not going up here, but we're using the full width of the strings. We're going across from string 1 to string 6. But then we're going to bring everything down, and it's going to sound much heavier. And that then starts showing you a little bit about what the song's going to be about, which is it's definitely that's going to come back, that particular run. So then after that, we have a section which is very quiet. And I think we may have down-tuned to B at that point, so when I go up here, it's because I don't want to detune down to B. And that's when we bring in like the motif for the song, which is the choir. And I don't remember what the notes are. Yeah. Da, da, ba, 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 ba. Yeah, that's like the, well, there's, you know, the... on top. So that's kind of epic. And then we go into the hardest riff, which is the fastest riff. look out for the harmonics, because there's an absolute shed load of them. And that's kind of part of the fun of that part of the track anyway, because it's very like... very, very Limp Bizkit. Or I like to say sixth, but really it's like Limp Bizkit. And then we just make it heavier. So how do you make this riff heavier? You just make it so that the harmonics are like strums, and everything else is like a... And that is it. That is pretty much everything about the track, and I think we're going to play it. I don't quite remember what those are. Remember what I said about not having a low B? Calendra. Here comes the hard bit. Let's go. Not quite. God. All harmonics all the way, baby. Heavier. God damn. Yeah, that the lactic acid that was building up in my arm throughout that last section, it actually made me not be able to speak. Ali will know how much we were working on those harmonics, and then obviously the. Which is just fun and groovy. The drums are doing a lot of cool stuff there. And then, yeah, just make it heavier. It's all in the right hand. And that is it. That is the entire EP. The entire EP. So should we check the timing? Check the timing of how long that took. That took 51 minutes. 51 minutes to play the entire EP. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me just take all of my crap off, and then we can have a quick talk about it. So yeah, that was it. That was the entire EP. I hope you enjoyed that. New 4 songs from the new chapter of Nephilim Resurrection. And the new chapter of Nephilim Resurrection is going to be ready very soon.